and we are Vocal Dialing Live. I'm Sherry Edwards, one of your hosts, along with
Richard Olson,
who suggested that since we couldn't get the music keyed up, that he could sing.
That's me. I've known for crooning. Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know that you could sing.
Me either.
We're broadcasting this on Blog Talk. We are simultaneously broadcasting on WebEx so people can watch the show. It's brought to you by SoundHealthOptions.com. For those watching us, you can look at the website or just go there and follow along with us. All bioacoustic biology, and we share time Tuesday evening from 6 to 7 with a show called Happy Hour. In that show, we ask for volunteers, and they give us a sample of their voice right on the air. Everybody can watch as we do it, and their voice in terms of some kind of. Last week we did something that is your friend, and really how fat the body for itself, but when poisons come in, fat surrounds it and stores it till your body has time to do something. We played a video of a doctor, and it's Dr. Peter, Attia. I want to listen to that incredible TED Talk, and from that, we changed our downloads, our bonus download, to what's not changed on my site here. We changed it to insulin resistance because some of you wanted to know more about fat and what was going on with it. They just needed to refresh my site. So that's available to the public as soon as we get the thing up and running. We just can't get some of the videos and things to work. So by morning, we hope that that's up and running. So on that site, we actually do people's voices, how to do people's voices, and we want to do hot topics, people in the news, things that bring you truth, show how we can interpret what is going on. So you'll be using two types of programs. Tonight, Nano Voice, and you'll see Charlie Chaplin's voice evaluated for that. You can see how we take information from the internet and then go look at it for truth. And that was an actor today, just so you could monitor, download these programs and use them for your own. The real gist of the program is predicting also verifying it, either way you want to put it. And we're Democrats and 2 Republicans. So let's start. And Richard, unless you have something you want to announce.
I could go with. No, thank you.
Go. Oh, okay. So we're going to be listening to Charlie, and he's dressed as Hitler. Now, there's some controversy about Charlie being on being a traitor. So this is something that he was dressed as Hitler with a little mustache. If you want to follow along with it, I will put this information in the chat and on the blog site for people to go back and look at it. So this is 2 minutes long, and I'm not able to all of it because of it brings in music playing. I will bring in his vocal print so you can see it and what is going on.
I don't want to be an emperor. That's not nice. I don't want to conquer anyone. I should like to win if possible. Jew, Gentile, and white. Human beings are like by each other's misery. We don't know one another. In the one of the good earth is rich and can be for everyone. The way of the free and beautiful. That we have greed has stabbed the world with hate, has led us into misery and bloodshed. We have greed, but we have shut ourselves in. That gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind.
Okay, I recording of it from this point forward because it had music. I only first part of it, but you guys can go ahead and see how this is done by recording and use the nano voice that's online down soundsessions.com.
Too much evil, too little. More than we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness, gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, nor lost. The rain and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness of men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Now my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. That heaven will pass and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. As long as men die, liberty will never perish. Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men. Within minds and machine hearts, you're not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, hate, and intolerance. Let us have a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Message. But more than that, Charles has one now have most fulfilled voices I have ever seen. And when I did his voice, I did it without the music. And then try to open it again so you can see it with streaks on it. And I don't know why we've got this in here. Okay, well, that cleared it. Let's see if it's in it again. There. Okay, one of the things we want with Nano Voice when we're looking to see how fulfilled someone's voice is, which means they're more balanced, we want to look at each note, C, C sharp, D, and Chaplin knew this on some level in 1940. That's when he did the speech. Without the music, full on the Blog Talk Radio. But what is F sharp and G? That music, those notes. Now, did he know that? Know that that was missing from his voice? And by filling in with music, he was very believable, because that's the issue that happens when you have all the notes, all the waves in equal distribution, all to one another. You become a person open. Now, here's the one below, and this is without the music. One note here that is not connected. We're looking at a bunch of squares and numbers in them, how many times the note appeared. And if you want to look at truthfulness and value self, and what this person is sharing, all there is with you, all of these notes must connect in some way or another. You can jump from box to box to box and move all this chart. Then we look at it with the music. It is completely full of intellectual yellow, some spontaneity. The emotion is about and self and leadership and honor and worthiness. Now, without the music, there was, for those of you who want more information about what we're talking about, there's a course, totally free, waiting for you on our site, soundofoptions.com, and you go to Nano Voice. You that the notes from C to F are left brain, and from F sharp to B are right brain. When you get Charlie Chaplin's speech with the music, it is very sharp, which is spirituality, more E, words, and more D, I want to help others. Look at it without the music, you can see Charlie Chaplin is a very intellectual person. He's emotional. He wants to be helping others. A little of it is spontaneity. Where that comes in is the note of B, and that's humanity. Chaplin would be a good CEO. He people if he can help them. If he can help you any longer, then he could lose his interest. But in just comparing these two charts, we can see complete Reagan's voice. And I do have it on the Reagan's voice. It is filled, then, but I didn't expect that. We look at any of the notes all the way across, C, C sharp, all the way through, every full and almost perfectly balanced. There's green here, so we wanted everything to be useful. Is there high ego? Yes, the note of C, and that you can download on that nanovoice.org that will help you interpret each of these notes. You have a right to know, and we're going to show how to have that right to know in just a few seconds here. Well, it's really. So, in Ronald Reagan, okay, he's an actor, maybe acting part, he's a character actor, if that was the case, because as his voice, and I'll play a little bit of the program. And this for, I believe.
Thomas, Times candidate for president on the Socialist Party ticket, said the American people would never vote for socialism. But he said in the name of liberalism, the American people will adopt every fragment of the socialist program. There are many in which our government has invaded the precincts of private citizens. The government is in business to the extent of owning more than 19,000 businesses covering 47 different lines of activity. This amounts to a fifth of total industrial capacity of the United States. But it's a to talk about another way, because the threat is with us and at the moment is more imminent. No methods of imposing statism or socialism on a people. Of medicine. It's easy to program as a humanitarian project. Most people are a little reluctant to oppose anything that suggests medical care. People can't afford it. Now, people, if you to them about socialized medicine and gave them a chance to choose, we had an example of this under the Truman administration. It was probably to have a compulsory health insurance program for all people in the United States, and of course, the American people hesitating, rejected this.
Hear in his voice. No wonder he played the role of a good president, a good leader, because his voice was debunker. He doesn't look at it. Connor, who played the part, he ends up having say holy, but that didn't sound right. And that means that there's a lot in his voice that isn't balanced. Things that I wanted to look at, since we know that Ray had to develop Alzheimer's, what could we look at by our soft could in Reagan before that he Alzheimer's in the we could. Are looking at, and I will in the article also, we are looking at Ronald Reagan's voice using a different kind of computer program. That we take a vocal print program called Audacity, and blah, 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 and we, in terms of the frequencies, you play with your words that you put together, but you cannot lie with the frequencies in your voice. So we look at vocal print using a program called Abacus, grab a wave file, and I have here, I think it's on my it's not coming up like it ought to. I ask it to open Reagan's file, and it opens something. QR. It's a wave file. I'll just open Pelosi so you can look at that, because we're also going to look at her this evening. Kind of way using. When we used the nano voice, we were only looking at at 0 to 1,000 cycles per second. The blue here that you're looking at on this gray grid, that's from 0 to 1,000 cycles per second. changes it from the lowest to the highest frequency of notes. Then we ask the computer to pull points, and it tells us what it thinks is significant by putting a little red circle around the frequencies that it wants us to look at, and makes a list of those frequencies. And down here, it looks at red frequencies and program. We teach people how to program every month. Got his information in here to make us different reports that we'd like, genes or proteins or vitamins or whatever. Ask it to make me information report about what was going on, and I'll shut down Gen Pro. Give me a second here. Let me open this back up. You can see.
While you're opening that back up, if I can add just a interesting point of interesting observation to me, is that I find it interesting that the voices are both so developed and that they both came from a similar era in film where they would have actually had a lot of vocal training. For that to extend their range because they actually had training. Now you can't lie, and all in their dynamic range, could have that been affected by training to be actors?
It had sophisticated enough equipment back then to be able to look at it. I know when I was running and a couple of other people were running, I was able to look at their voice and see what was gone. One was Jackson, and he had frequencies gone from his voice, and they used a soundboard to his voice and fill that in. The same with Clinton. He had a D missing, which is why you had him on the street, and he felt like a, and that's why women went for him a lot. But they don't artificially do that. They do it with music all the time. Somebody's flat on a note or something, and they can use a soundboard to make that sound perfect. So have it in the 40s and 50s. I don't know. I did.
But it could be possible if I were to hypothetically for the idea that they're acoustically sensitive who's around them and who could hear that and say, I need more of this, I need more of that. And it's people who are really trained vocal professionals and teachers who really develop people's voices just by hearing, everything in the range. Just a thought.
So, it's by category when I hit this report. Nope, that did not come up. We can do a name. It is using his frequencies from this 19 speech. Alzheimer's receptor gene is in his voice. Even if it was hidden in there, we could have looked at it. And the kind of Alzheimer's he had dealt with zinc and the ability to use zinc and copper. Use his voice and absolutely look at in years ahead of time, could take some information of Congress, that strange things, if Alzheimer's were in their voice. This one I did was Nancy Pelosi, things that I didn't understand. She couldn't do math. She made some strange comments about math, and one of going to provide 600 million jobs. Well, there's not. and then saying about how unemployment went up, and she just was totally inaccurate. And then to say we have to read a bill to what's in it. Another one she said was unemployment actually creates jobs. Unemployment. And one of the Buddhists is sharp D empty, D sharp very high, E practically empty, F empty, F practically empty, G not empty, A sharp and B empty. When you see something like this, know this person is not telling you. These things are very literal. She's telling you one thing is. And the graph is green. It's for a useful purpose. This is an written program that says when you punch a few buttons of Nancy Pelosi, the ability to use words to persuade the minds of others. If you ever lie to see justice done, you would do it, but justice does not always jive with the law. Using vocal expressions to misdirect a query is easy for you. Are not true, not forthcoming, and not believed by the speaker. They should be believed by the listener. Sort of weird things about Pelosi in there because they can raise money. Ronald Reagan's vocal print above Nancy Pelosi's. On this one, up at of Pelosi's vocal print. This very, very rich, very balanced. Pelosi talking about unemployment. Just a fluke? Are there other things in this vocal print? Let's look at her talking about number one. All red means it's a reaction. The bailout. If there's some yellow in here, so she's thought about it a bit, but most of it is either a reaction to a question someone asked her, or elicit a reaction. On both sides and missing in the middle. Between perception and even though she may have the information, she doesn't have the solution. Literal. Again, this one she was talking about the loss of seats in Congress. It didn't mean anything. All somebody has their mic open. Would you please shut? Thank you. Thank you. I can't do who it is. But green, useful. She's loss of seats. She's open on C to F, left brain, right here. One of the things that I see missing continuously out of Pelosi's information is its intellect reactions. In almost none of hers do you see emotions. Go back to Reagan. Intellect, yellow and blue are equal. Green, he shares that with Nancy Pelosi. But no, so going on. Look at would like to look at youth programs. Now, the one I have up on the site right now for download, the exposure, we just took down fatigue. We left it up for a month. And the bonus software about insulin resistance is about Fat is Your Friend. So you'll be able to download that along with a call to use it, a basics textbook for 72 pages, I think, and a lot of instructions on the side. You can abacus that we just used to make those little red dots. And so you register the software, you get a phone, and you can set yourself up in business. This is the thing of setting up a bioacoustic community center everywhere. This is about you being able to use this to see who's telling you the truth. To look at Pelosi, I compared her, and this was to me, to Obama. Obama's voice. When he first came in office, he had a voice than he has now. Now he is very one-sided. He's more and more like Nancy Pelosi as we go along. Surprised about this is in the beginning. Take it as the truth now. We may break up next week. But Bob from Ohio, his shock when I did not think that he was in the same league as Ronald Reagan. No, today he is not. And his voice, and we'll bring it back to you. But you can compare people who are alike, who is alike, who would be best to speak, who would get together well. Put together Alzheimer's information. We're going to start with this. This is just a program. If enough people want it, we will put it up next month and begin to use it. I have marked that we're going to look at proteins and genomes so we can explore the kind of Alzheimer's that Ronald Reagan had. 1964 report. I'm going to make the nano voice is automatic. Set of a button, and you have it's nothing that you have to do. With the Reagan's voice, you can see the copper metabolism issue. He had glutathione. Even thought this glutathione issue was modern GMOs. It has been in here for a while. It was in his chart in the 90s. Correlates memory function. Neuromendain low, residual proteins and glycolipids that cause plaque in the brain. You very low density lipoprotein receptor. It registers low in his voice, and that's associated with sporadic Alzheimer's disease. This gene that shares with Nancy Pelosi. Another issue for Nancy Pelosi. We did people, but these when we looked at them. It's in here, but I'll try to go get here. Harry Reid in Congress. Now, why Harry Reid? Two Democrat and Mitch McConnell that filibustered his own bill. About everything and nothing, so people can't vote. They don't have time to vote. His own bill. And Harry Reid from different parties, that even though Mitch McConnell wrote this bill, by bringing it back. And this is in the paper. Here's Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, amazing filibuster of his own bill. That makes me question his logic. Why didn't filibuster it? So I went back and looked at his information going on. Of Reid, do they ever look alike? 100 rising up out of gray neutral area and then coming to the end. So different parts, but one is almost identical. And of this copper metabolism issue. Harry Reid accuses Republicans of this and this and this and this and scandal, and he has said some things in the presidential campaign that didn't make any sense, like somebody put out in front to start rumors, and he was out there and did it, even though there was no he was saying was true. So I thought he was kind of about why won't this let me kill up here? Well, because what's going on with him? Les O'Donnell, an Alzheimer's, a bioacoustics Alzheimer's program. We have 71 programs far that we give the public that we bring if people would like. We do have a professional level class that's going to start on Monday. We are giving away lab equipment with that in hopes of helping people establish a vocal learning center in their community. So when your committers or whoever runs the city gets up and makes a speech, you can see if they're telling the truth or not. One day, I remember the city, but recently the city council voted to not any city workers or in public to smoke, but the city did it themselves. We talked on one of our Sunday shows. The big government's doing, the federal government, these laws and exempted themselves from it. Do know the truth. I've got another video to show you at the end. So you kinds of information you know. McConnell's, and we're going to look at proteins and genomes. Now look for copper information as these reports pop up here. Okay, this is in Congress, and again, I just did these of the button. Ion, that was the same issue as Reagan. Copper, a problem, neural problem, and he called syntaxin, novel protein for President information, and did anything in someone's chart. Blood work on them. Chaperone, copper transporter, glutathione peroxidase. 3 things in common. Is there something in Washington? Or lipo is also another one of Reagan's issues. And the unusable in McCall's chart may increase the risk of dementia. AGF-beta, increase to treat Alzheimer's. Cause regulation. Alzheimer's. Altonin was called here. So, have very similar profiles. With now they haven't come up with this yet. Chart. The problem with the zinc. So, because I thought his behavior was strange. If I could have remembered what Kaufman made the statement about Guam, that they voted against putting a military on Guam, a small island, because they didn't want the island to tip over by having military installation heavy on one side. That was stated. Any of you out there know who said Hank Johnson? You're saying back. Tell if he was serious or joking. There was Bush, young President Bush, when the Reaper sent us his way, and he said, "I'm not a bit afraid of that shoe," and a total lie, and you could see it in his information. Again, we're going to look at genomes and proteins. They're low, but they're implicated with Alzheimer's. They're there, but they're low. Copper transition, dopamine receptor. The dopamine was in Reagan's chart. The glutathione was in Reagan's and McConnell's chart. But the transporter was in with their charts. It's in this case and says it prevents Alzheimer's, but it's low. Another one, pyruvate dehydrogenase. Alzheimer's causes significant decline in. So when you see this, you could think that Harry Reid is in more of a decline than the rest of them when you begin to look at the proteins going on. And the proteins, you can have DNA, and that's your pattern. But it's the proteins that really keep the pattern, monitor the pattern. It's much more important for proteins to be working well, and they wouldn't be on the chart if well. Pick the highs and the lows that are a frequency that's out of range or non-harmonic. So this, see Pelosi's GNS file. A GNS is where we start the beginning. The genome, again, and here's the copper. All of much more abundant in any other. Read probably as bioacoustically speaking, and all of hunting to have appeared off my computer. Someone to throes of Alzheimer's being a leader of your government. Nobody has. How about Syrian president? I was going to save that for next week. I was going to do what you would like to see at the end. But can the Syrian president and ask this question? If he is not telling the truth, what would you? What can we do about it as a group? Find this thing, okay? I don't believe you. Get out of my face. What would you do to scrap all politicians? Just an incredible movement underway that I think they used to think nobody that I supported that much, nobody that I cared about and gave my vote to would do to me. Absolutely doing it with us. And these people are saying no, and when you see the video at the end, you'll see why. Chairman of Staff, George, okay, those who want to see these, send me, and Putin. Oh, new voice. You want Obama thrown in there too? Yep, Obama, Joan wants. So that's what we'll do this Sunday, because on Book Talk Radio, because I just think it's too timely to wait. Okay, I'm on Nancy Pelosi's WAV file. You can play that WAV file so you can hear just a little bit of it, and we can, from beginning to end, doing healthcare reform under reconciliation. This is about doing corrections to the Senate bill under reconciliation. The bulk of 80% of it is already in this bill. So this is about a small percentage of what is there. And the members they're pretty astute. They know these issues very well. We want to pass a health care bill. Much for all Americans, and especially women who are discriminated in terms of children from pay. She could hear the holes in her voice, even with every word. The difference in her voice and Reagan's voice is just absolutely the abacus that's sitting there waiting for you. And that file and begin to look at it. We ask, what does it think is important here? We give graphics so health care. If the computer requires it, it's going to make 12, 12, 12. And we're just looking for her. We don't know. We've called a Genesis file here. CPELOSI. Did I file it? Don't know where I put it. Let's go back. Must have filed it someplace weird. Bill, save. So we and we put it. Oh no. So in this file is on my hard drive under Reagan and all the things I put together for the show. There's Pelosi, and there's just one that's regular Pelosi. Let's look at both of them. In terms of, we're looking for the copper, the glutathione, transproteins, the quarter, there are neuraminidase, taxin, there's the arbutinol, TNF. Here's the reports. And your genes, then that's already activated and underway in the it's causing. There's the melatonin, the neuraminidase, the pyruvate dehydrogenase, like Reagan, very low density receptors, like Reagan had. Of manifested in Reagan, but it looks like the most in Pelosi, then maybe every person necrosis factor. Thank you, Joan. The TN stands for truth, which means they don't have much. If you look at the vocal prints, and not just one, but the vocal prints for people who are going to be our leaders, who are already our leaders, find out if they are serious. We can find if they have our best interests at heart. Right now, we're not being told the truth. Anybody out there think we're being told the truth? Nope. This was sent to me, which is about 1:30 where this guy ends. He tells you the plan. And I'll bring it back to you next week. I really don't think that we can wait. Another show only happens every other week. Listen carefully to the plan. And this is from the pen.
Downstairs, I was leaving the Pentagon, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And he said, we don't. He said, to 9/11, he said, no. He said, but I guess they don't know what to do about terrorism. They think that they can attack states, and they want to look strong. So I guess they will intimidate the terrorists. And it's like that old thing he said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem has to be a nail. Well, I walked out of there pretty upset. We attacked Afghanistan. I was pretty happy about that. We should have. And back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later, I saw the same officer. I said, one why haven't we attacked Iraq? We're still going to attack. I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense office that says we're going to attack and destroy governments in 7 countries in 5 years. With Iraq, we're going to make long now.
Long phrase, what the real agenda of our government is, and please release that if Obama cronies don't toe the line. Absolutely incredible. So what we can predict Alzheimer's from somebody's voice at least 20 to 30 years ahead of time. Pelosi is the best liar of the bunch. I can see who was speaking because I can tell from video or it to me. So, but his voice, and I love what he's saying and what he's exposing. I'm going to George, if you can help me find this, and for you listening, and I'm answering a question in the middle of nowhere, it's from the chat. So, posting information. So, Pelosi is the very best liar. She is the best manipulator of information. Cheney had this ability to manipulate information, and Kyle has the to manipulate a very strong foundation. Felt that he's doing this for a good purpose. I did pick on one party from that, Susan. Pelosi being the best manipulator. Connell and Reed are beat it. You can look at their chart, and they're not there in what's going to say this out there. Talked about Romney's income tax. It turned out to be false, and he and went out and said that. If you have links, let me know. The other piece of this is what you want to see next time. What truth would you know about? And what can we do about it? The two parties are nothing but an illusion anyway. I was going to to my Facebook sharing here. Stop sharing. I'm going to go to my email. An email from a gentleman that just absolutely said it about politicians. Local Profiling Live. My Facebook. You can find that very quick. I had it up here and now it's gone. So Mike Edwards and just it might be Edwards as Sound Health. That I found that is great. That's not what I want. edit this, Richard, you can take the bumbling part out of here of what I'm doing. About education. Put this up on Facebook. Ready to go. And now I'm just embarrassed about where it is and what it was. Both phone lines, scandal behind Gardasil. Here it says, this is foreign freedom. Politicians regularly practice their scripts of professional Alzheimer's near and every time they make a public statement. Can I emoticon here? We lost our trust. And we look at some of the things that are posted in the chat, you absolutely that we have lost trust in our elected officials. We never thought that they'd let us, gave them our vote. Danny G. We'll have timers on happy hour maybe next week. But as Richard always says, my quiet co-host for the evening is follow the money. And when you what's happened in Congress, almost all of them have become in the last few years. Look at, send me their vocal print and the link, or go to Nano Voice yourself and whatever other things that you want to look at, and the program will give you answers. We are a giveaway not because we can afford it, but because it has to be done, because you have a right to know the truth. Thank you for any last words.
I was stunned by the, yeah. It's when we start talking about politics and it seems like the parties are dead, and it's really just an organization of people that are one giant rubber stamp to approve what corporate America wants. I think saying in chat earlier was that I think a powerful thing that we can do is when we see, information like this or is that we just keep putting it out there into the social media so as many people become aware of the information and begin to go, oh, really? Maybe they're just laying sacks of filling choice.
That's a great suggestion, that people could link from Vocal Profile from Blog Talk, or we'll have this link for you so they can watch what's going on. And if everybody here would send to their people and say, this is a way that we can know the truth, we have to take their word for it anymore. Way. Or if any of you know of radio shows that we can take this to and take it to the public in greater leaps that way, please let me know. If any of you listen to shows that you think this would be good on, see you later.
Air quotes fun.